Hello, guys, welcome to a new chapter of the future of humanity from Michio Kaku. Introduction towards a multi-planet species. When I was a child, I read Isaac Asimov's Foundation trilogy, which is celebrated as one of the greatest sagas in the history of science fiction. I was stunned that Asimov, instead of writing about ray gun battles and space wars with aliens, asked a simple but profound question. Where will human civilization be 50,000 years into the future? What is our ultimate destiny? In his groundbreaking trilogy, Asimov painted a picture of humanity spread out across the Milky Way, with millions of inhabited planets held together by a vast galactic empire. We had traveled so far that the location of the original homeland that gave birth to this great civilization was lost in the mists of prehistory, and there were so many advanced societies distributed throughout the galaxy, with so many people bound together through a complex web of economic ties that, with this huge sample size, it was possible to use mathematics to predict the future course of events, as if predicting the motion of molecules. Years ago, I invited Dr. Asimov to speak at our university. Listening to his thoughtful words, I was surprised at his breadth of knowledge. I then asked him a question that had intrigued me since childhood. What had inspired him to write the Foundation series? How had he come up with a theme so large that it embraced the entire galaxy? Without hesitation, he responded that he was inspired by the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. In the story of the empire, one could see how the destiny of the Roman people played out over its turbulent history. I began to wonder whether the history of humanity has a destiny as well. Perhaps our fate is to eventually create a civilization that spans the entire Milky Way galaxy. Perhaps our destiny is truly in the stars. Many of the themes underlying Asimov's work were explored even earlier, in Olaf Stapledon's seminal novel, Star Maker. In the novel, our hero daydreams that he somehow soars into outer space until he reaches faraway planets. Racing across the galaxy as pure consciousness, wandering from star system to star system, he witnesses fantastic alien empires. Some of them rise to greatness, ushering in an era of peace and plenty, and some even create interstellar empires with their starships. Others fall into ruin, racked by bitterness, strife, and war. Many of the revolutionary concepts in Stapledon's novels were incorporated into subsequent science fiction. For example, our hero in Star Maker discovers that many super advanced civilizations deliberately keep their distance a secret from lower civilizations to prevent accidentally contaminating them with advanced technology. This concept is similar to the Prime Directive, one of the guiding principles of the Federation in the Star Trek series. Our hero also comes across a civilization so sophisticated that its members enclose their mother sun in a gigantic sphere to utilize all its energy. This concept, which will later be called the Dyson Sphere, is now a staple of science fiction. He meets a race of individuals who are in constant telepathic contact with one another. Every individual knows the intimate thoughts of the others. This idea predates the Borg of Star Trek, where individuals are connected mentally and are subordinate to the will of the hive. And at the end of the novel, he encounters the Star Maker himself, a celestial being who creates and tinkers with entire universes, each with its own laws of physics. Our universe is just one in a multiverse. In total awe, our hero witnesses the Star Maker at work as he conjures up new and exciting realms, discarding those not pleasing to him. Stapledon's tribalizing novel came as quite a shock in a world where the radio was still considered a miracle of technology. In the 1930s, the idea of achieving a spacefaring civilization seemed preposterous. Back then, propeller-driven airplanes were state-of-the-art and had hardly managed to venture above the clouds, so the possibility of traveling to the stars seemed hopelessly remote. Star Maker was an instant success. Arthur C. Clarke called it one of the finest works of science fiction ever published. It fired up the imagination of a whole generation of post-war science fiction writers, but among the general public the novel was soon forgotten amidst the chaos and savagery of World War II. Now that the Kepler spacecraft and teams of Earth-bound astronomers have discovered about 4,000 planets orbiting other stars in the Milky Way galaxy, one begins to wonder if the civilizations described by Stapledon actually exist. In 2017, NASA scientists identified not one, but 7 Earth-sized planets orbiting a nearby star, a mere 39 light-years from Earth. Of these 7 planets, 3 of them are close enough to their mother star to support liquid water. Very soon astronomers will be able to confirm whether or not these and other planets have atmospheres containing water vapor, since water is the universal solvent capable of being the mixing bowl for the organic chemicals that make up the DNA molecule. Scientists may be able to show that the conditions for life are common in the universe. We may be on the verge of finding the holy grail of planetary astronomy, a twin of the Earth in outer space. Around the same time, astronomers made another game-changing discovery, an Earth-sized planet named Proxima Centauri b, which orbits the star closest to our Sun, Proxima Centauri, which is just 4.2 light-years away from us. Scientists have long conjectured that this star will be one of the first to be explored. These planets are just a few of the recent entries in the huge Extrasolar Planets Encyclopedia, which has to be updated practically every week. It contains strange, unusual star systems that Stapleton will only have been able to dream of, including systems where 4 or more stars rotate among one another. Many astronomers believe that if you can imagine any bizarre formation of planets, then it probably exists somewhere in the galaxy, as long as it doesn't violate some law of physics. This means that we can roughly calculate how many Earth-sized planets are there in the galaxy. Since it has about 100 billion stars, there might be 20 billion Earth-sized planets orbiting a Sun-like star in our galaxy alone. And since there are 100 billion galaxies that can be seen with our instruments, we can estimate how many Earth-sized planets there are in the visible universe. A staggering 2 billion trillion. Realizing that the galaxy could be teeming with habitable planets, you will never see the night sky in the same way again. Once astronomers have identified these Earth-sized planets, the next goal will be to analyze their atmospheres for oxygen and water vapor, a sign of life, and listen for radio waves, which could be signal the existence of an intelligent civilization. Such a discovery will be one of the great turning points in human history, comparable to the tamping of fire. Not only will it redefine our relationship to the rest of the universe, it will also change our destiny. All these exciting discoveries of exoplanets, along with the novel ideas brought about by a fresh new generation of visionaries, are rekindling the public interest in space travel. Originally, what drove the space program was the Cold War and superpower rivalry. The public did not mind spending a staggering 5.5% of the nation's federal budget on the Apollo space program because our national prestige was at stake. However, this feverish competition could not be sustained forever, and the funding eventually collapsed. US astronauts last walked on the surface of the moon about 45 years ago. Now the Saturn V rocket and the space shuttle are dismantled and rusting in pieces in museums and junkyards, their storage languishing in dusty history books. In the years that followed, NASA was criticized as the agency to nowhere. It has been spinning its wheels for decades, boldly going where everyone has gone before. But the economic situation has begun to change. The price of space travel, once so high it could cripple a nation's budget, has been dropping steadily, in large part because of the influx of energy, money, and pink steadily, in large part because of the rising cohort of entrepreneurs. Impatient with NASA's sometimes glacial pace, billionaires like Elon Musk, Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos have been opening up their checkbooks to build new rockets. Not only do they want to turn a profit, they also want to fulfill their childhood dreams of going to the stars. Now there is a rejuvenated national will. The question is no longer whether the US will send astronauts to the Red Planet, but when. Former President Barack Obama stated that astronauts will walk on the surface of Mars sometimes after 2030, and President Donald Trump has asked NASA to accelerate that timetable. A fleet of rockets and space modules capable of an interplanetary journey, like NASA's Space Launch System, booster rockets with the Orion capsule, and Elon Musk Falcon Heavy booster rocket with the Dragon capsule are in the early testing phase. They will do the heavy lifting, taking our astronauts to the moon, asteroids, Mars, and even beyond. In fact, so much publicity and enthusiasm have been generated by this mission that there is rivalry building up around it. Perhaps there will be a traffic jam over Mars as different groups compete to plant the first flag on Martian soil. Some have written that we are entering a new golden age of space travel, when exploring the universe will once again become an exciting part of the national agenda after decades of neglect. As we look to the future, we can see the outlines of how science will transform space exploration. Because of revolutionary advances in a wide range of modern technologies, we can now speculate how our civilization may one day move into outer space, terraforming planets and traveling among the stars. Although this is a long-term goal, it is now possible to give a reasonable time frame and estimate when certain cosmic milestones will be met. In this book, I will investigate the steps necessary to accomplish this ambitious goal, but the key to discovering how our future may unfold is to understand the science behind all of these miraculous developments. Given the vast frontiers of science that lie before us, it may help to put the broad panorama of human history into perspective. If our ancestors could see us today, what would they think? For most of human history, we lived wretched lives, struggling in a hostile, uncaring world where life expectancy was between 20 and 30 years of age. We were mostly nomads, carrying all our possessions on our backs. Every day was a struggle to secure food and shelter. We lived in constant fear of vicious predators, disease, and hunger. But if our ancestors could see us today, with our ability to send images instantly across the planet, with rockets that can take us to the moon and beyond, and with cars that can drive themselves, they would consider us to be sorcerers and magicians. History reveals that scientific revolutions come in waves, often stimulated by advances in physics. In the 19th century, the first wave of science and technology was made possible by physicists who created the theory of mechanics and thermodynamics. This enabled engineers to produce the steam engine, leading to the locomotive and the Industrial Revolution. This profound shift in technology lifted civilization from the curse of ignorance, backbreaking labor and poverty, and took us into the machine age. In the 20th century, the second wave was spearheaded by physicists who mastered the laws of electricity and magnetism, which in turn ushered in the electric age. This made possible the electrification of our cities with the advent of dynamos, generators, TV, radio, and radar. The second wave gave birth to the modern space program, which took us to the moon. In the 21st century, the third wave of science has been expressed in high-tech, spearheaded by the quantum physicists who invented the transistor and the laser. This made possible the supercomputer, the internet, modern communication, GPS, and the explosion of the tiny chips that have permeated every aspect of our lives. In this book, I will describe the technologies that will take us even further as we explore the planets and the stars. In part 1, we will discuss the efforts to create a permanent moon base and to colonize and terraform Mars. To do this, we will have to exploit the fourth wave of science, which consists of artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, and biotechnology. The goal of terraforming Mars exceeds our capability today, but the technologies of the 22nd century will allow us to turn this bleak, frozen desert into a habitable world. We will consider the use of self-replicating robots, super strong lightweight nanomaterials, and bioengineered crops to drastically cut costs and make it into Mars. Eventually, we will progress beyond Mars and develop settlements on the asteroids and the moons of the gas giants Jupiter and Saturn. In part 2, we will look ahead to a time when we will be able to move beyond the solar system and explore the nearby stars. Again, this mission surpasses our current technology, but fifth wave technologies will make it possible. Nanoships, laser sails, ramjet fusion engines, antimatter engines. Already NASA has funded studies on the physics necessary to make interstellar travel a reality. In part 3, we will analyze what it would require to modify our bodies to enable us to find a new home among the stars. An interstellar journey may take decades or even centuries, so we may have to genetically engineer ourselves to survive for prolonged periods in deep space, perhaps by extending the human lifespan. Although a fountain of youth is not possible today, scientists are exploring promising avenues that may allow us to slow and perhaps stop the aging process. Our descendants may enjoy some form of immortality. Furthermore, we may have to genetically engineer our bodies to flourish on distant planets with different gravity, atmospheric composition, and ecology. Thanks to the Human Connotome project, which will map every neuron in the human brain, one day we may be able to send our connectomes into outer space on giant laser beams, eliminating a large number of problems in interstellar travel. I call this laser porting, and it may free our consciousness to explore the galaxy or even the universe at the speed of light, so we don't have to worry about the obvious dangers of interstellar travel. If our ancestors in the last century will think of us today as magicians and sorcerers, then how might we view our descendants a century from now? More than likely, we will consider our descendants to be like Greek gods. Like Mercury, they will be able to soar into space to visit nearby planets. Like Venus, they will have perfect immortal bodies. Like Apollo, they will have unlimited access to the sun's energy. Like Zeus, they will be able to issue mental commands and have their wishes come true. And they will be able to conjure up mythical animals like Pegasus using genetic engineering. In other words, our destiny is to become the gods that we once feared and worshipped. Science will give us the means by which we can shape the universe in our image. The question is whether we will have the wisdom of Solomon to accompany this vast celestial power. There is also the possibility that we will make contact with extraterrestrial life. We will discuss what might happen were we to encounter a civilization that's 1,000,000 years more advanced than ours, that has the capability to roam across the galaxy and alter the fabric of space and time. They might be able to play with black holes and use wormholes for faster than light travel. In 2016, a speculation about advanced civilizations in space reached a fever pitch among astronomers and the media, with the announcement that astronomers had found evidence of some sort of colossal megastructure, perhaps as big as a Dyson sphere, orbiting around a distant star many light years away. While the evidence is far from conclusive, for the first time scientists were confronted with evidence that an advanced civilization may actually exist in outer space. Lastly, we explore the possibility that we will face not just the death of the Earth, but the death of the universe itself. Although our universe is still young, we can foresee that day in the distant future when we might approach the big freeze as temperatures plunge to near absolute zero and all life as we know it will likely cease to exist. At that point, our technology might be advanced enough to leave the universe and venture through hyperspace to a new, younger universe. Theoretical physics, my own specialization, opens up the notion that our universe could be just a single bubble floating in a multiverse of other bubble universes. Perhaps among the other universes in the multiverse, there is a new home for us. Gazing upon the multitude of universes, we might be able to reveal the grand designs of a star maker. So the fantastic feats of science fiction, once considered the byproduct of the overheated imagination of dreamers, may one day become reality. Humanity is about to embark on perhaps its greatest adventure, and the gap that separates the speculations of Asimov and Stapledon from reality may be bridged by the astonishing and rapid advancements being made in science. And the first steps we take in our long journey to the stars begins when we leave the Earth. As the old Chinese proverb says, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. The journey to the stars begins with the very first rocket.